The National Electrical Code, also known as NEC, typically requires all electrical wiring to be protected by a conduit or other approved raceway in specific situations. Firstly, when installed in damp or wet locations. Secondly, when installed outdoors. Thirdly, when exposed to physical damage or abuse. Basements are often damp or wet due to moisture penetration and poor ventilation. Basements are also subject to physical damage, such as from foot traffic or storage items. Conduit provides protection for the electrical wiring from moisture, dust, and physical damage. It also helps prevent accidental contact with live wires, which can cause electrical shocks or fires. For a jacuzzi feeder in a basement, it is recommended to use electrical metallic tubing, also known as EMT, conduit. EMT is a lightweight, durable, and corrosion-resistant conduit that is easy to install. In addition to running the feeder in conduit, it is also important to firstly, use a waterproof junction box at the jacuzzi for connections. Secondly, install a ground fault circuit interrupter, also known as GFCI, to protect against electrical shocks. Thirdly, hire a qualified electrician to ensure that the installation is done safely and correctly. Let's delve deeper into the reasons why conduit is so crucial for electrical installations in basements, especially when it comes to supplying power to a jacuzzi. The National Electrical Code sets the standard for safe electrical practices, and its regulations are designed to minimize risks associated with electricity. One of the primary concerns addressed by the NEC is the protection of electrical wiring from environmental factors and physical damage. Basements, by their very nature, present several challenges to electrical systems. They are often prone to dampness and moisture due to their location below ground level. Water can seep through the foundation, leading to elevated humidity levels and even standing water in some cases. This moisture can corrode electrical wiring and components, compromising their integrity and increasing the risk of short circuits and electrical fires. Furthermore, basements are typically used for storage, laundry, and other activities that can subject electrical wiring to physical stress. Items stored in the basement may be accidentally dropped or moved, potentially damaging exposed wires. Foot traffic and general activity in the basement can also contribute to wear and tear on the electrical system. To mitigate these risks, the NEC mandates the use of conduit or other approved raceways to protect electrical wiring in damp or wet locations and where it is exposed to physical damage. Conduit acts as a protective barrier, shielding the wires from moisture, dust, and physical impact. It also provides a continuous grounding path, enhancing safety by helping to quickly trip circuit breakers in the event of a fault. When selecting conduit for a jacuzzi feeder in a basement, EMT is a popular choice due to its numerous advantages. EMT is a lightweight steel tubing that is relatively easy to cut, bend, and install. It offers excellent protection against physical damage and corrosion, making it well suited for basement environments. EMT is also non-combustible, meaning it will not contribute to the spread of fire. In addition to using conduit, there are other important safety measures to consider when installing a jacuzzi feeder in a basement. A waterproof junction box should be used at the jacuzzi to make electrical connections. This will protect the connections from moisture and prevent corrosion. A ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, should be installed to protect against electrical shocks. A GFCI is a fast-acting circuit breaker that can detect even small imbalances in electrical current. If a ground fault is detected, the GFCI will quickly trip the circuit, cutting off power and preventing a potentially fatal shock. Finally, it is always recommended to hire a qualified electrician to perform electrical work, especially in damp or potentially hazardous environments like basements. A qualified electrician has the knowledge, skills, and experience to ensure that the installation is done safely and correctly, in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. They can also identify and address any potential hazards that may be present. In summary, running a jacuzzi feeder and conduit through a basement is not just a good practice, it's typically a code requirement designed to protect people and property from electrical hazards. By understanding the reasons behind this requirement and taking the necessary safety precautions, you can ensure a safe and reliable electrical installation for your jacuzzi. Let's further explore the specific types of conduit available and their suitability for different applications within a basement setting. While EMT is a common and generally recommended choice for jacuzzi feeders, other options exist, each with its own set of characteristics and advantages. Understanding these options can help you make an informed decision based on your specific needs and circumstances. One alternative to EMT is rigid metal conduit, or RMC. RMC is a heavier gauge steel conduit that offers even greater protection against physical damage and corrosion than EMT. It is typically used in applications where the wiring is subject to severe impact or where there is a high risk of corrosion. However, RMC is more expensive and more difficult to install than EMT, so it is not always the most practical choice for residential applications. Another option is flexible metal conduit, or FMC. FMC is a flexible metal tubing that can be easily bent and maneuvered around obstacles. It is often used in situations where it is difficult or impossible to run rigid conduit, such as in tight spaces or around corners. However, FMC offers less protection against physical damage than EMT or RMC, so it is not typically recommended for use in areas where the wiring is likely to be exposed to impact. In addition to metal conduits, there are also non-metallic options available, such as PVC conduit. PVC conduit is a rigid plastic tubing that is lightweight, corrosion-resistant, and easy to install. It is often used in underground applications or in areas where there is a high risk of chemical exposure. However, PVC conduit is not as strong as metal conduit and is more susceptible to damage from impact or extreme temperatures. When choosing a conduit type for your jacuzzi feeder, it is important to consider the specific conditions in your basement. If the wiring is likely to be exposed to significant physical damage, RMC may be the best choice. If flexibility is a major concern, FMC may be a suitable option. However, in most cases, EMT provides a good balance of protection, cost, and ease of installation, making it a popular and reliable choice. Regardless of the conduit type you choose, it is essential to install it properly to ensure that it provides adequate protection for the wiring. This includes using the correct fittings and connectors, supporting the conduit at appropriate intervals, and grounding the conduit system in accordance with the NEC. Let's also discuss the importance of proper grounding and bonding in electrical systems, particularly in the context of a jacuzzi installation. Grounding and bonding are critical safety measures that help to prevent electrical shocks and minimize the risk of fire. Grounding refers to the connection of electrical equipment and systems to the earth. This provides a low-resistance path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to quickly trip circuit breakers and prevent dangerous voltage from building up on conductive surfaces. Bonding refers to the connection of different metal parts of an electrical system together. This creates a common electrical potential, which helps to prevent voltage differences that could cause electrical shocks. In a jacuzzi installation, it is essential to properly ground the jacuzzi equipment itself, as well as the metal conduit that carries the electrical wiring. This will help to ensure that any fault current flows quickly to ground, tripping the circuit breaker and preventing a potential shock hazard. The NEC provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding electrical systems, and it is important to follow these requirements carefully. A qualified electrician can ensure that your jacuzzi installation is properly grounded and bonded, providing a safe and reliable electrical system. Remember the importance of ground fault circuit interrupters, known as GFCIs, in providing enhanced electrical safety, especially in locations where water is present. GFCIs are designed to detect even small imbalances in electrical current, which can indicate a ground fault. A ground fault occurs when electricity flows through an unintended path to ground, such as through a person's body. GFCIs work by constantly monitoring the current flowing through the hot and neutral wires in a circuit. If there is a difference of more than a few milliamps between the two currents, the GFCI will trip the circuit, cutting off power in a fraction of a second. This can prevent a potentially fatal electrical shock. GFCIs are particularly important in areas where water is present, such as bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor locations. The NEC requires GFCIs to be installed in these areas to protect people from electrical shocks. For a jacuzzi installation, a GFCI should be installed to protect the circuit that supplies power to the jacuzzi. This will help to ensure that anyone using the jacuzzi is protected from electrical shocks. GFCIs are relatively inexpensive and easy to install. They can be installed in place of a standard electrical outlet or circuit breaker. When choosing a GFCI, it is important to select one that is rated for the specific voltage and amperage of the circuit it will be protecting. It is also important to test the GFCI regularly to ensure that it is working properly. To test the GFCI, simply press the test button on the device. The GFCI should trip, cutting off power to the circuit. If the GFCI does not trip, it may be defective and should be replaced. In addition to GFCIs, arc fault circuit interrupters, known as FCIs, are another important safety device that can help to prevent electrical fires. FCIs are designed to detect arc faults, which are dangerous electrical discharges that can occur when wires become loose, damaged, or corroded. Arc faults can generate intense heat, which can ignite nearby combustible materials and cause a fire. FCIs work by monitoring the electrical current for unusual patterns that indicate an arc fault. If an arc fault is detected, the FCI will trip the circuit, cutting off power and preventing a fire. The NEC requires FCIs to be installed in many areas of the home, including bedrooms, living rooms, and dining rooms. While FCIs are not specifically required for jacuzzi circuits, they can provide an extra layer of protection against electrical fires. When choosing an FCI, it is important to select one that is rated for the specific voltage and amperage of the circuit it will be protecting. It is also important to test the FCI regularly to ensure that it is working properly. To test an FCI, simply press the test button on the device. The FCI should trip, cutting off power to the circuit. If the FCI does not trip, it may be defective and should be replaced. Now let's shift our focus to the proper sizing of conductors and overcurrent protection for a jacuzzi feeder. Correctly sizing the wires and circuit breaker is crucial for ensuring the safe and reliable operation of the jacuzzi and preventing overheating or electrical fires. The NEC provides detailed guidelines for determining the appropriate size of conductors and overcurrent protection devices based on the load they will be carrying. The first step in sizing a jacuzzi feeder is to determine the total load that the jacuzzi will draw. This information is typically found on the jacuzzi's nameplate, which lists the voltage, amperage, and wattage of the equipment. Once you know the total load, you can use the NEC tables to determine the minimum size of conductors required. The NEC tables take into account factors such as the type of conductor, the insulation rating, and the ambient temperature. It is important to select conductors that are rated for the specific conditions in your installation. In addition to sizing the conductors, you also need to select an appropriate overcurrent protection device, such as a circuit breaker or fuse. The overcurrent protection device is designed to protect the conductors from overheating in the event of an overload or short circuit. The size of the overcurrent protection device should be based on the ampacity of the conductors. The NEC specifies the maximum overcurrent protection allowed for different sizes of conductors. It is important to select an overcurrent protection device that is sized correctly to protect the conductors without nuisance tripping. When sizing conductors and overcurrent protection for jacuzzi feeder, it is also important to consider any other loads that may be connected to the same circuit. If the jacuzzi is sharing a circuit with other appliances or equipment, you need to factor in the combined load when determining the appropriate size of conductors and overcurrent protection. It is always recommended to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that your jacuzzi feeder is properly sized and protected. A qualified electrician can perform the necessary calculations and select the appropriate components to ensure a safe and reliable electrical installation. Finally, let's reiterate the importance of hiring a qualified electrician for any electrical work, especially when it comes to installing a jacuzzi. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is essential to have the knowledge, skills, and experience to perform the work safely and correctly. A qualified electrician has completed extensive training and has passed rigorous examinations to demonstrate their competency. They are also familiar with the NEC and other applicable codes and regulations. Hiring a qualified electrician can help to ensure that your jacuzzi installation is done safely and correctly in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. They can also identify and address any potential hazards that may be present. Attempting to perform electrical work yourself without the proper training and experience can be dangerous and can lead to serious injuries or even death. It can also result in damage to your property and can void your insurance coverage. In addition to safety, a qualified electrician can also ensure that your jacuzzi installation is done efficiently and effectively. They have the tools and equipment necessary to perform the work quickly and accurately. They can also help you to select the right components and materials for your installation, saving you time and money. When hiring an electrician, it is important to check their credentials and ensure that they are licensed and insured. You should also ask for references and check their online reviews. A reputable electrician will be happy to provide you with this information. It is also a good idea to get multiple quotes from different electricians before making a decision. This will help you to ensure that you are getting a fair price for the work. In conclusion, remember that safety should always be your top priority when it comes to electrical work. Hiring a qualified electrician is the best way to ensure that your jacuzzi installation is done safely and correctly. By following the NEC guidelines and taking the necessary safety precautions, you can enjoy your jacuzzi for years to come without any worries.